Hello. Welcome back to Let's Talk Ray Bradbury. I am your host, Brian. I've been doing this show for about 8 years now, attempting very methodically to go through each and every short story written by the late, great Ray Bradbury. There are roughly 600 of those stories, and today we're up to story number 280, My Son Max, which is also the 21st of 25 short stories in his 2000 collection, One More for the Road. If you're new to the channel, the way that this works is I do a brief synopsis of what happens in the story, sort of all the plot and action, just a quick review of what happens, and then I sort of wrap it up with just a few thoughts and feelings, a very light analysis, rather, of what I take away from this story. I mainly do this for my own entertainment, but on occasion I've been happy to learn that you've enjoyed these stories too. So here we go. My Son Max. A man who grew up around hearing-impaired cousins and learned to read lips. He has a little game that he plays. He goes alone to restaurants and he sort of sits there and he looks at lips and he reads lips and he listens in on people's conversations. And so although he is alone there eating, dining on a regular basis, he's never quite alone because he feels like he's part of other people's family. Unbeknownst to most, he's been doing this, and there's one particular family that he zeroes in on this evening. He listens in as a father, a mother, and a 20-year-old son sort of have an argument, and he quickly realizes this is actually a part two, a sequel, if you will, to something that happened there in that very same restaurant about a year earlier. In that particular meal, the father had stormed out of the restaurant after an argument. But this year, he thinks that they all look a little bit healthier, a little bit happier, a little bit more well-balanced. But they're drinking heavily, and at that point, the father reveals to the rest of the family that he's in fact knocked up his secretary, and they're going to have a son, and he's going to name him Max. My Son Max. That's where the title comes from. So we sort of backtracked and we revealed that he's learned that his 20-year-old son has come out as gay. That is what the argument was over a year earlier. And the father has decided that since you're not going to give me an heir to continue on the family name, I've taken it upon myself to knock up my secretary, and my new son, Max, is going to carry on my legacy. But there's no reason that the rest of our family should change. Why can't we stay married and you can keep living in my house, son, and everything will be fine, but I'll just have to spend some time with this boy, this newborn, who's coming at Christmas every now and then. This time, the son storms out of the room and his mother quickly follows. Left alone in the restaurant, the father approaches the narrator, who is reading lips, and says, "Yeah, you're reading lips, aren't you? I thought I knew you were doing that, so I had to put on a show for you. So I cooked up this scheme, this story all year long, just to have fun with you. You're a writer, right? I think you're a writer because you're paying attention to people, and that's how writers do it, right?" And he sort of leaves, and the narrator then proceeds to try and drink a whole bottle of wine himself. So this is a fun little story with a twist that isn't actually a twist, in my opinion. This is a family in turmoil, first with the father, rather, his inability to accept that his son has come out as gay. He's been in denial, or at least he was in denial a year earlier, and now he's gone, and I think he's actually had an affair. He's actually been in a relationship, a sexual affair with his secretary, but now he's come out and he's basically saying that, it should be okay, right? This is, it's not about you. We can go on being married and living together and having our normal family, and it shouldn't affect that. And I think that's all him trying to save face, realizing he's probably made a mistake and trying to have the best of both worlds, where he can have the family he's losing as well as the family he's gaining. But because, he continues to be a bigot. He couldn't accept his son for what he was. It's a solid little story. I think it's telling of Bradbury to be having written this in his 80s, but also still be open to different ways of living. I think that is very uncommon among older generations who grew up in a very different world. And we sort of think of people as they get older becoming more set in their ways, becoming less tolerant, or comparably less tolerant, and having a hard time adapting to a world that was certainly very different. But then again, Bradbury did spend most of his lifetime in LA, a much more progressive place. So it's hard to say where he was as an author at this point, but I love that he did this, that he found this clever little way to sort of deal with the topic of a person coming out, and then the way that the family deals with it, and sort of the father revealing his inability to cope with what he's come to learn about his son. And I don't think there's any interpretation of this story where any of this was actually a ruse, as he tried to claim. I think that he sort of realized that the man was reading lips, and he sort of realized that his little ploy here had been exposed, and perhaps maybe he fears that the writer could then go tell that story, and he wouldn't want it getting out. But there you have it, My Son Max. Next time we'll be looking at a story with quite a long, interesting, odd title, which is the F. Scott Tolstoy Ahab Accumulator. And that will leave just 3 more stories left in One More for the Road. I hope that you will subscribe, and I hope that you're still listening to this video all the way through, and I hope that I see you again in a couple of days. Bye-bye.